guys, what's going on? Welcome to Serial at Midnight. My name is Heath, and it is time for another Review-Palooza. Now, it's been weeks, I think it's been months since the last Review-Palooza. Why is that, Heath? Well, I've been trying to do as much work before I even come to you with some of these new releases, so that, like when I talk about something in a Fresh Flavors, which is our new release video, I've hopefully already seen it, so I can talk to you about it then. For what doesn't get covered like that, what I haven't had time to see in a Fresh Flavors video, we save, I throw it in the stack for a future Review-Palooza. Stack is full, it's time to go. Let's rock. Buckle up, Buttercup. We got a lot of stuff to talk about here. Let's kick it off with some 4K reviews. I've got a short 4K review, and I've got a longer 4K review. Let's start with the short 4K review. Actually, you know what? This is the inaugural totally short 4K review.
Now, Serial at Midnight presents a totally short 4K review with Heath.
Thanks, Dave. That comes from Dave in the Cave from Fun Tower Radio. Google that. Check him out. What a set of pipes on that guy. And he is one of us. He's a Serial at Midnight Patreon supporter. Dave in the Cave with that totally short 4K review bumper. 10 Commandments on 4K. Here's the totally short review. It looks really good. I'll elaborate just a little bit. It's a 50s movie. Some people might be like, why would you give a 50s movie a 4K treatment? Well, it's got what the kids call the HDR, the high dynamic range. It looks really, really good. The color palette, the saturation, the film grain, all the things I like to talk about. It's here in the 10 Commandments. I didn't think I'd ever be buying this movie again. I bought the Blu-ray in 2020. It was a re-release, and I was like, well, I'm good now. No, they're like, hey, Heath, guess what? 4K. So hopefully, I think this is it. And I have to say, it's, never looked as good as this on home media. Cecil B. DeMille, greatest exploitation director of all time. That's copyright. Heath, Serial at Midnight. He served up blood and bosoms, and even church people were like, well, this seems pretty legit. I like it. Master at his craft. Not brief on words, very long-winded. This is not a review of the movie The 10 Commandments, which I like but don't love, but we're talking like the video quality. Jeez, Rick. It looks really good. Let's talk about the 4K of Batman, Soul of the Dragon. This came out a while ago, or for those also in the South, a while ago. Came out a while ago. That also sounds Australia. This came out a while ago. Batman and the Soul of the Dragon. There's this guy called Batman. He walks around sort of like in a cape. He's got like all sorts of stuff on his head. He's got all these tricks he pulls. He's like, hey, wait a minute, I got something better for that. We just lost the Australian audience, and we're going to be talking about Australian discs too. Dang it. I could switch this over to New Zealand, which is a little bit further back in your throat. Okay, bail, abort, pulling the eject seat. Batman, Soul of the Dragon, is a love letter to the 70s Batman comics of Denny O'Neil. I'm talking about like the Dennis O'Neil era, Neil Adams, Jim Aparo. Also very steeped in the kung fu, what the kids call the kung fu of the 1970s as well. That, this really is kind of the Richard Dragon movie. In fact, there's a remarkable special feature on here. I'm going to talk more about that in just a second. But Bruce Timm, who is the producer, one of the brains behind this, all hail Bruce Timm. We love what he gave us. He says that the studio, Warner Brothers, was like, there's a lot of Richard Dragon in this. I think it needs some more Batman. And then maybe that's a good note, because it is essentially the Richard Dragon movie featuring Batman. I like it. I think it's a good movie. What I was going to say is this, the comics that this is kind of based on, it's not a particular adaptation of one Batman story from the 70s, but it is sort of a tribute to just all of those 70s Batman comics are kind of overlooked, right? Because now 60s Batman is super cool again, super hot. The Adam West, Burt Ward, that sort of stuff. Of course, 80s Dark Knight. I mean, Zack Snyder's made a cottage industry. Well, it's not a well, he's made trillions of dollars off of 80s Batman. 90s, of course, like all that has its day in the shade. But 70s Batman seems to have kind of flown under the radar. No more. Along Comes Batman, Soul of the Dragon. It's the comics at the time were kind of an answer to Richard Dragon, maybe an answer to Shang-Chi, who's we're all talking about now because there's stuff coming out with Shang-Chi. Very much the kung fu warrior, the way of the warrior, the urban fighter with Batman. And so this movie kind of ties together. I'm going to see if I can set this here, if it'll stay. Where's my little stand? You know what? I'm going to put it... No, it's out of camera. All right, I'll just hold it. It kind of ties together all of the DC kung fu / martial arts character. We've got Richard Dragon. By the way, Richard Dragon, I believe he was always a Caucasian guy. He was a white guy. I think this is the first, and you guys will correct me if I'm wrong. Oh, you will correct me if I'm wrong. I believe this is the first time he's been recast as an Asian character, and he is essentially Bruce Lee. I mean, it is very much in the mold of Bruce Lee. He's a kung fu hero like Bruce Lee. So we're talking about him, or we're talking about the Bronze Tiger, who is, by the way, Richard Dragon, voiced by Mark Dacascos from The Brotherhood of the Wolf, which is coming out on Blu-ray, or getting a new release. Le Pack de Loup. The Bronze Tiger character, that's not what they call him. It's Ben, whatever his character's name is, Ben something. That's Michael Jai White. Kelly Hu is what's her character name? She's not Shiva. Anyway, she's a voice in the film as well. And it's Batman. I'm sorry, Bruce Wayne. It's very much done like everybody's got sideburns. The soundtrack is like they know what they're doing. They're channeling a very specific kung fu vibe. Bruce goes to the temple, kind of like at the beginning of Batman Begins. Christopher Nolan took a lot from that era of Batman, and then he was like, I don't make comic book movies. Like, well, it was good enough for you for Batman Begins. When did you get too good for comic book movies, Christopher Nolan? That's right. I'm throwing shade at Nolan. He goes to the temple, he learns the ways of, whatever. He learns to overcome himself. And he makes some alliances and all that. It's good. It's not great. It's fun. It's nice to have a spotlight on this era of Batman comic, just the comics in general. It drags on a little bit for me. It's only 83 minutes, I think, and I got a little bit bored sometimes. Now, it doesn't drag on as much as the 10 Commandments, thank goodness. But I don't know. I feel like it could have either been shorter or had a little bit more story. But I don't know. So much of it works. I'm able to overlook it. It's solid. It's a solid B. I'll give it a B, maybe a B minus, C plus or B minus. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just a little feels a little stretched out as I'm about to knock my stack over. Here's what though. Here's what. It's got some really cool special features. Oh, by the way, the 4K. It is a 4K. It looks really good. It's got like film grain, which I don't even understand because it's all done. I'm going up. It has got film grain, which I don't understand. I'm Mark Wahlberg all of a sudden. You guys, I'm really upset right now. This movie's got film grain. I thought this was digital. I'm really upset, you guys. I don't understand. I think I've got a Transformer. Wow, this is. I'm really juiced up. This video. It looks really good, and the special features are on the Blu-ray disc. So I watched the 4K disc. I'm like, all right, let's pop in the Blu-ray disc, and I was like, I probably will just start waiting on these a little bit longer. That's what I started. This review started. I was going to tell you guys that I've been waiting on these because they drop in price so fast. Not necessarily the 4K versions, but like the Blu-ray versions, they come out, they're like $20. Like within a couple of months, they're down to $9.99. By Black Friday, they're like $3.99. And I'm like, why am I spending $25 on these brand new, or 30, worse, 30? So, I was like popping in the Blu-ray for the special features, and I was like, you know what? I bet the Blu-ray looks fine, and I'm happy with the Blu-ray. Well, I was immediately struck with how much poorer the Blu-ray looks compared to the 4K. Blu-ray looks fine, but I saw the 4K, and the 4K is significantly better. So I get questions sometimes, Heath, is animation worth picking up on 4K? Because it can't be that much better, right? It does look better. The colors look better, the motion looks better. When I popped in the Blu-ray, it felt to me like watching a Blu-ray and then going to a DVD. Because, it was back to back, and it was just like, I don't know. Oh, wow. Looks worse. But I was glad that I bought the 4K. Here's the thing. This has a special feature on it called Batman Raw Groove. And it is 30 minutes, like 30 minutes on the button. And it is as good, if not better, than the movie itself. It's so freaking good, you guys. It talks about, they got like professors, and they've got like all these experts and stuff. They place the Kung Fu exploitation movie in its historical context. They're talking about Vietnam. They're talking about the rise of like the martial arts movement in the black community, because it gave discipline and it gave focus, and you were able to channel your rage, and like how the hippie movement transitioned into this movement. And they trace the rise of Kung Fu movies, the connection to blaxploitation movies. They're like, enter Pam Grier. They show the Bronze Tiger character. He's wearing like a yellow shirt, very Luke Cage, very Marvel Luke Cage, who's also from this is the same time period. And I was like, I feel like maybe they're copying Luke Cage. Then they show a clip of Hot Potato, Jim Kelly. I think it was Jim Kelly, right? In the Kung Fu blaxploitation movie Hot Potato. He's wearing the shirt. It's like, oh, you got it. Of course, you got it from Jim Kelly. That's a better source than, so you didn't steal it from Marvel. You got it from Hot Potato, of course. Fantastic document. And then they kind of talk about how, dude, they tie in Elvis and Elvis's martial arts training. They talk about how like everybody was so upset about like the environment and society and corruption and political whatever and Nixon, and then they're like, and then we all just kind of like that's how the decade starts, with the death of the hippie dream, and then by the end of the decade, everybody's just in the club dancing. They don't even want to think about their problems. Just in the bathroom, snorting stuff up and going out dancing. They talk about all of that in this documentary. It is so good. I'm going to say almost worth the price of admission. So between the two of them, I definitely feel like I got my money's worth. So clearly, that's a 2 thumbs up from Heath on that one. Let's talk about Thundarr the Barbarian on the Blu-ray. Now, I haven't watched this entire season yet. I've watched about half of it. This is a Warner Archive title. If anybody from Warner Archive is seeing this, we're thinking about you guys. I know you're going through a lot. Thank you for all that you've done for us over the years, the last decade plus. Strong in our hearts, you guys. Warner Archive. They need our thoughts and prayers. Thundarr the Barbarian is, so it's not technically a Hanna-Barbera show. I posted a tweet. This is Heath airs his dirty laundry. I posted I was actually on Facebook, and I was like, this Hanna-Barbarian is extremely excited about Thundarr the Barbarian. It's a Ruby Spears show. And someone called me out on this, and they're like, well, it's a shame somebody didn't do the research. I'm aware that it's a Ruby Spears show, but here's the thing. If you know anything about Hanna-Barbera, you know what Ruby and Spears did for the Hanna-Barbera brand. You know their connection to Scooby-Doo. You know their connection all throughout the 70s, and you know how that kind of culminated with a show like Thundarr the Barbarian and what that means for Hanna-Barbera fandom. You get the connection. So, and it's not a coincidence that Hanna-Barbera was the branding that was chosen for the last Warner Archive presentation of this, which was the DVD version, because it's inseparable from, to me, it's inseparable from the roots of Hanna-Barbera. It's the same animation style. Those guys, Scooby-Doo and Ruby Spears, like this, right? Like they're intertwined. Anyway, Thundarr the Barbarian, perhaps one of the greatest cartoons of its entire era. If you're not familiar, it's 1980 into 1981. The premise of the show is that it's the apocalypse has happened, like a meteor knocked the Earth off, like there was this catastrophic environmental thing. The moon is broken. Earth has like gone off its axis or something. The environment is devastated. Everybody dies, right? Like just about everybody dies. Now it's like, hundreds and hundreds of years later, mutants have arisen out of the society. It's a world of magic. It is Mad Max meets He-Man, but I think it's earlier than both of those things. So it's just something that was kind of going on behind the scenes there. It's awesome. It is incredible. If you like He-Man, if you like Conan the Barbarian, this is so much fun. It's like the stories are dark. But, I mean, it's not like it's a rated R show. It's a cartoon from 1980 that came on, like, Saturday morning. So it's not like it's super, super dark. But just the ideas and the premises behind it. Ukla Lamont, Thundarr the Barbarian, Princess Ariel. So I guess it's kind of in the shadow of Star Wars, too. Because we've got all that stuff going on as well. It's wonderful. The work that Warner Archive has been doing. Look, Josie and the Pussycats in Outer Space, which I don't have yet. I need to get that. It's on my list. It's out now, but I need to get it. The Johnny Quest stuff. The Josie and the Pussycats proper. The not the Outer Space, but just the regular series. If things are winding down at Warner Archive because of the leadership in charge of Warner Brothers, what a high note. What a high note. So pick this up, send a message with your dollars. It's such a good show. It does have a special feature on it too. It's got the retrospective on Lords of Light, the story of Thundarr the Barbarian. There's a mystery behind this show too that I'm deciding if this is the place or if I'm doing some investigating behind the scenes. There's something in one of the episodes. My Patreon supporters know because I brought it to their attention. But there's something in one of the episodes, and I'm like, the timing of this does not work out. Something is afoot. I'm still investigating. I think I'm going to hang on to it until I know a little bit more. Guys, let's talk about the Film Detective's new Blu-ray of Hercules and the Captive Women. We have another peplum on Blu-ray thanks to the Film Detective. Now, we recently talked about the Film Detective with the Blu-ray of The Giant from the Unknown, which was sort of a 50s, I think we call them like backyard horror. They were shot, kind of locally, kind of small. But Hercules and the Captive Women is, of course, a peplum. It's an Italian-made, European... these movies were really made to... It was like Europe's answer to the Hollywood... to the Ten Commandments. Oh, you guys, we can draw a direct line between the Ten Commandments and movies like this. You've got, Steve Reeves enters the Hercules thing, and it kind of blows up. Again, an exploitation movie of a different kind, kind of chasing that biblical epic style. But Reg Park is Hercules in this, and he's great. He's really great. There's another label that put out Hercules in the Haunted World, which is equally great. I might like this one more. There's something about, that's Bava. This is not Bava, but there's something about this that I really do like a lot. Video quality, look, they've brought this thing back from... It did, okay, so there's... Included on here is the complete Mystery Science Theater 3000 episode from back in the day. It's got an intro with the MST3K writer and co-star Frank Conniff and the Mystery Science Theater 3000 version, 1992. So that's, of course, edited, right? And they would draw from battered sources and stuff. So if you only know this movie from Mystery Science Theater 3000, I mean, this is as close as we're ever going to get to like a theatrical presentation of this. It looks really, really good. 1, in its original aspect ratio. 2, completely restored and uncut. Now, the source material for Hercules in the Haunted World, Hercules and the Captive Women was problematic, right? It was very battered. So I do notice, I gotta be honest with you guys, I do notice every now and then, I think I noticed it twice, maybe 3 times, there'll be a couple of frames dropped. It just happens a few times. I suspect this is because those frames are just not there in the source material. But unless you're really looking, and even then we have to have some grace with this stuff, right? Because they're restoring this with the best available elements. And, kudos. There's liner notes. Check it out. Booklet. I love a booklet. Why do I love a booklet? Because I want to learn about... I realize my lighting is just like I'm casting it. The camera is casting a shadow. I love to learn more about the movies. So this is The Duel of the Titans, and it's a sort of an overview by C. Courtney Joyner, one of the talk about a Titan, about Steve Reeves, Gordon Scott, and Reg Park, about how they all kind of came in as like the muscle men, the Saturday matinee larger than life hero, and the paths that they each took. It's wonderful. It really gets into the it's super educational, and not in a dry, boring way. Also educational, and also made with the involvement of C. Courtney Joyner, is this documentary from Ballyhoo. You know we love Ballyhoo motion pictures. Daniel Griffith's company, his Ballyhoo documentaries are second to none. Hercules and the Conquest of Cinema. That is it's about 20 minutes. It is an overview of the entire peplum genre, what I consider to be currently the most underappreciated genre in all of film. Because, everybody is talking about the horror stuff. People love Euro horror. Giallo is having its moment in the sun now for the last 5 years or so. Like, oh, what Giallo can we get? I'm seeing a lot more love for spaghetti westerns than I did when I first started Serial at Midnight. I'm seeing Euro crime movies being elevated. Peplum is still kind of the redheaded stepchild of the European film preservation game or whatever, but things like this are really changing the conversation, because we can see these movies not in battered, cropped, ugly prints, but in really, really well restored, curated, lovingly presented editions. So to the Film Detective, I just want to say thank you so much. Having something like this on our shelves in a very, very high quality presentation really means a lot to me, guys. I highly recommend this. I need to refresh myself. I'm talking very fast. I need to slow down a little bit too. All right, let's talk about Arrow. Death Has Blue Eyes. What a strange movie, and it feels strange, and I think the director thinks it's strange too. This is it's a movie that comes out of Greece, 1976, I believe. Yeah, Omega Entertainment. So it's directed by Nico Mastorakis. Hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. It is supernatural spy exploitation. I don't know that we can say it's horror. There are a couple of horror elements in it, but it's really just one of those, maybe a little erotic because it's from the 70s, right? So of course, but I'm trying to think about how to describe this movie to you guys. There's two guys. Okay, there's two guys. These two English guys who are kind of bopping around Europe, and they meet up with this woman, two women, a younger woman and an older woman. One of them has some powers and is like clairvoyant, can sense like Christopher Walken in the Dead Zone or something, right? You're like, oh, you're not who you say you are. You're not from here. You're lying. You're not in this hotel room. You're staying at my hotel. And then of course, like the director's talking about how, like, every few pages, like he made the movie through financing. Pardon me. See, my voice is already wearing down. I gotta pace myself. He made the film with financing through an adult film producer. So there were certain things that needed to be there for the production. So, like, every 15 minutes, there's a love scene. But he talked, like, the director says, like, he wasn't comfortable filming them. So, they I don't know. They don't go... I don't know. I mean, they seem pretty exploitative to me, but I guess he felt like he could have gone farther. It doesn't really, as a lot of these European movies, like, it doesn't really make sense. I don't know if that's the point. Asking for your European, your Italian, your Greek, your French movies to have a thoroughly clean narrative, that's asking too much. They don't want to do that. But it looks great. It's an Arrow film. More and more, I talk to you guys about this sometimes in these Review-Paloozas. Whether a movie's good or not isn't really even the point. I'm kind of over good or bad. I mean, I want to see things that are good, but I'm more interested in how. Like, everybody's got a style. Every actor has an appearance and a delivery. There's something that kind of just draws me to these movies. So yeah, this movie is, even by the director's own admission, like, he's like, I don't know why anybody would want to watch this, but I'm happy that they do. I want to watch it because I think it's really interesting. It's a snapshot in time. Greece, 1976, beautiful women, some really weird spy elements. It's unique. It is what it is, right? Like we can enjoy these movies for what they are, not what we want them to be. This is a very loaded special edition, as we expect nothing less from Arrow. So the HD presentation, 2 versions of the film, a widescreen and a full frame, because a lot of markets saw it full frame, right? So you get to choose original mono audio, English subtitles, the new interview with the director. I think it runs about a half an hour. An exclusive new interview with the actress that plays the I can sense, the Professor Xavier of this movie, or I guess with the Jean Grey. Although I don't remember her ever doing the X-Men thing where when they're using their powers, they do this. I don't think that happens. Dancing with Death, tracks from Death Has Blue Eyes, the original soundtrack, because it's got great music. They composed the music for this, and it's very evocative and of its time. The original theatrical trailers, image gallery, and reversible artwork. Can I show you the? I don't know if I'm going to show you. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it quick. So here's the main, the one you get, and there's the alternate. Okay. Also comes with a booklet, and here this is very indicative of the. A lot of that. A lot of text. I read the entire thing. It's kind of an essay on the director's entire career. The cards. Arrow puts these cards in their Blu-rays to show you what's coming next. This comes with trimmers, so just wanted you to know. Let me pack everything back up while I'm talking. But what do you guys? You know what I'm saying? Like, did I express that well? Like, you get to a point, you're like, we all want to watch good movies. But every movie is someone's vision, something they worked hard on. Nobody makes something bad on purpose. So some people do. Nobody makes a failure on purpose. You know what I'm saying? Let's talk about the Scream Factory double feature of Amazons and Barbarian Queen. This is one of those super duper limited editions that was gone like 2 days after they announced it. I got it. I'm happy to have the movies. It's both films on one disc. Amazons is not very good, and it's not very good in a way that is almost boring. I'm really struggling with Amazons because there's something missing. Maybe there's just no story. Maybe that's part of it. I'm sure I'm just noticing that this case is completely cracked at the top. I don't know if it's showing up on the camera, but it's cracked. However, all that said, Barbarian Queen, I really like Barbarian Queen. It's one that calls me back. Both movies are totally like mid-80s trashy, deliberately trashy movies. Roger Corman Productions. Barbarian Queen is, it's got Lana Clarkson in it, who was, it's like, I feel so, we can't be here for 2 hours. Lana Clarkson, the Phil Spector, he shot her, right? It's messed up. He took Lana Clarkson away from us. She was great. She's beautiful. She's really cool in this movie. There's just a lot going on for this movie. I need to veer away. Trending. It's like it got dark, right? I was like, Amazons. I don't know. Phil Spector killed the star of this movie. Barbarian Queen is a fun Conan light style movie with an almost entirely female cast. Amazons also almost entirely female cast. Does it ever live up to the cover art of these Boris Vallejo? I think that's Boris Vallejo paintings. Let me see. Oh yeah, Boris 85, Boris 86. Yep. No, but that's okay. And there were deleted scenes from these that were taken. I suspect they were taken. Look, Barbarian Queen is 72 minutes. 72 minutes. That's barely a movie. Not that I'm complaining, because get me in and out. You know what I'm saying? But I think there were deleted scenes that were maybe cut for the U.S. market, maybe were included in some other markets. I'm not sure. They're here. You get it's like 13, 14 minutes of deleted scenes. I really like this disc. I'm really glad that Shout Factory put this out. I just wish it wasn't limited. I wish everybody got to... I'm talking to you guys. So many of you guys are going to be like, oh, that looks really cool. I'd like to have that. But you can't. And that's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Limited to 1,000 units, sold out mere days after it was announced. That's not... And they let people buy 5 at a time. Now how... All right. Let's talk about Batwoman and the Panther women. This is Panther women. These are Mexican exploitation movies from the 60s. Let's talk about Panther women first because it's the earlier of the two, I believe. Now I'm doubting myself. We're going to talk about it first anyway. Panther women is black and white. It's both of these movies, as well as Santo and the Dracula. I'm not reviewing that one now. We'll save that for later. But these are movies from Mexico that feature a lot of luchadors, a lot of Mexican wrestlers, both men and women. Particularly Panther Women's got a lot of Mexican wrestlers in it. And it's about women that turn into panthers. Like they're it feels, you know what, it feels like a 50s exploitation movie, like an early AIP movie, American International Pictures. It feels like that. Maybe 50s Universal, but not as good. Listen, the movies are fun. I just mean like a Universal horror is like, that's kind of the top of the mountain, right? It's the star by which to guide your ship. It's fun, and there's a lot of like wrestling scenes because there's a lot of 60s wrestlers. The winner here for me is Batwoman. And it was clearly look at the poster. It was clearly capitalizing on the success of the 1966 Batman series. I believe it's 1968, so like right when Batgirl is hitting the Batman TV show. She's in, this is her costume. It's a bikini. She's in a bikini for most of the movie. She's a very attractive woman. The Panther Woman is kind of a mystery. It's really kind of a horror with wrestler black and white 50s style. This is why it's weird because it's 1967, right? But check those dates just to make sure. But it feels so much like a throwback, whereas Batwoman is like a spy movie with a woman in a bikini and a bat bikini for the entire movie, complete with like the spy kind of music and its color, and I really like Batwoman. Here's the problem. These come from VCI, and I don't know why. I've heard speculation. I've heard rumors. I don't like to report on rumors because I'd rather report on facts. I don't think speculation really belongs in a review. Maybe if you're just talking about something, but in a review, leave speculation out because you don't know. For some reason, VCI has not included the original Spanish audio. These are Mexican films made in Mexico in Spanish. No Spanish audio. What we have instead is a new dub. And it sticks out like a sore thumb. It sounds like Mystery Science Theater 3000. And I don't like that because I think it feels too distant from the movie. And you have all these sound effects from the movie. So you'll have, like there'll be a fight. You hear all the mono sound effects or whatever. And you'll even hear people yelling. And then it's like, wow, that hit was better than I expected it to be. They're doing like cartoon voices. It's not even like real dialogue. Like, well, we've got to get over there because that person... it's not like acting. It's like cartoon, larger than life. Ha ha! You thought you could best me, but you can't. I have luchador skills. It's like out of a 70s kung fu exploitation movie, but it's new. Like they just did this. They just made this. So it's so good to see these movies. They look really good. They've never looked this good before. These appear to be new restorations, but they don't have their original audio. And then the audio that is there is new and problematic. And I'm not the only person that said this either. This is kind of the consensus. It's an issue. But I still recommend the discs because I think the movies are fun. And as of right now, There's no other way to get these movies in the condition that we're talking about, like on a disc for your shelf in HD. So buy them, and we hope something better comes along with the original audio. VCI, if you guys are seeing this, can you get the audio? Can you get that original Spanish audio? Because then it would be such a home run. I talked about, I don't know how much more I've got to say about this, but I do, I watched it. This comes from Umbrella Entertainment. This is Once Upon a Twilight. This was a 1968 television pilot in Australia for what would have been a series a lot like the Monkees. A real band, Australian band, the Twilights. The lead singer, I don't know if he's the lead singer. One of the members of the Twilights went on to be part of the Little River Band. But it's a fun pilot, and it was lost for so long because, like, you know, where would it pop up again? It was just a pilot. But it's really fun. It's got a lot of the music. The Twilights were a really cool band. It feels very inspired by the Beatles. I guess they're chasing that too, because if you're talking about the Monkees was a reaction to A Hard Day's Night. But I don't know. I talked about this in Fresh Flavors. I wanted to talk about it again because it's really fun, and it only takes up about a half an hour of your time. 24 minutes. So kudos to Umbrella for getting this on disc. They've been putting out a lot of music-friendly releases too, like the bandstand kinds of shows and things like that, as well as a lot of westerns. So I really like what Umbrella is doing. Another company in Australia that's also doing great work is Viavision. They're the company behind Imprint. And let's talk about Bloody Britain. So I devoured this like you would not believe. Bloody Britain is a show. It was made at Discovery Channel, early 2000s. It's a historical show about the history of Britain, the bloody history of Britain, right? But it's done, I mean, that kind of tells you, like, it's done a little bit winkingly with modern, modern aesthetic. Really what the show does is they tell you a lot of history of Britain, and then they reenact how they would do. Well, first they've got these like kind of janky CGI, like PlayStation 2 CGI reenactments of things, but then they'll do like, okay, so this person was then hanged, drawn, and quartered. Tell us about that. And so the guy will be like, okay, well, let me do this. Boop. Right on. It'll be like, well, you would have your limbs separated like this. And so he's like talking about how he would do this. And then you'd hear it like they Foley, like they Foley the sound effects of someone being hanged, drawn, and quartered. And they'd be like, then I would slice you from your neck down. You gotta be careful because not everybody's into this kind of conversation. And then he'll pull out, like, they have this executioner guy that works at the Tower of London. He's not an actual executioner. He's like the historian, like the historical beefeater, torturer guy or whatever. And so you see the back of the guy, like the back of the host, and so he'll like reach down and he pulls out sausages and stuff. But the point, and again, it's like the point is effectively made. They do a lot of you guys, they do, like, they talk about how they do amputations and stuff on the battlefield. Like, you know, if you had to have your like they're talking about, I think they're talking about like the Lord Nelson naval battle against Napoleon. And they're like, yeah, if you took a cannonball to the leg and your leg had to be amputated, this is how they would do it. And then they have like a cow leg, like a real cow leg, and then just like we would first, and there's like like cutting this cow leg up, and then I'll stop because again, I know not everybody's into this stuff, but it brings it really vividly to life, and it's all too short for me. It's 3 discs. It's less than 10 episodes, I think, but it's so good. There's a Jack the Ripper episode. Yeah, it's wonderful. I love Bloody Britain. Rory McGrath, that's the host. He's sort of a celebrity comedian guy in the UK. Anyway, highly recommend this if that's your thing. I also want to talk to you guys about Bognor. I say it like it's Bognor. They just say Bognor. What is it for turned up in your investigation, Bognor? It's a British detective show. He's not even a detective. I think he works for the Trade Department, which is an American. I'm not even really sure what that is, but like he investigates for the Department of Trade. And so he's going to, you know, like, oh, there's been a murder down at the newspaper and I've got to go investigate and see what's going on. It's self-deprecating. It's dry, which is what I kind of like from my British entertainment. I like that dry, like, cynical, jaded presentation. It's not dark. That's something else. Dark is often funny. If you don't realize that dark is funny, you got a problem. It's just like, it lets you, it's inviting, right? Like, it's like, come in, we'll make fun of this stuff together. Like, yes, like he'll go to investigate something and then he'll get, okay, so the second mystery, there's 4 mysteries. It's the complete series. Each mystery is 6 episodes, half hour, 25 minutes, whatever. And it's from the early 80s. So, it's all like keyboards. The theme song was, the keyboards like, it's like, wow. There was a point in time where that was so cutting edge. But that's all part of the charm, right? There's this episode, or this mystery, where he gets like socked in the jaw at the end of episode 1. And then for the whole rest of the mystery, 5 more episodes, he's got this massive bump where the actor had to like stuff something into his cheek, and they paint it, purple and everything. And so like for the whole show he's talking like this. Well, I just came around to investigate the mystery. She's like, I made steak for dinner, love. And he's like, oh, bother. That's like, I like it. I like it a lot. And the first mystery has Patrick Troughton, Doctor Who #2, in it as well. So, guys, if it looks different, the weirdest thing just happened. The camera just shut itself off. So I had to investigate. I don't know what happened. I don't know why it happened. Got power. Got space on the memory. So, I don't know. We'll see what happens for the rest of the video. Let's go into a Kino Lorber 5-pack. I got 5 Kino Lorber titles to talk to you guys about. Let's talk about Taffin. This movie is cool and it's very unique. It's an Irish film that is made like after Remington Steele is a huge thing, and before, like years before, Pierce Brosnan would be James Bond. So it kind of exists where he's in this, I mean, he's very much like a leading man, but he would be even bigger. It's hard to imagine, but premise of the film is that he is Taffin. He's kind of an enforcer for like loan shark kind of people. You know what? Kind of like Rocky Balboa in the first Rocky movie. He's like a thumb breaker, right? He goes to collect the money. So that's Pierce Brosnan in this movie. And there's a corporation that's coming to town, and like a chemical corporation. And basically the townspeople are like, we got to stop this. And the corporation's like, you can't stop us. And they're like, Taffin, we need you. And it's not necessarily an action movie. There's a lot of action elements to it, but it's more like a thriller, almost like a Tom Clancy sort of a thing, where it's very focused on like the people and the operation and the relationships and stuff like that. I like it a lot. I had this movie on DVD back in the early, the studio released it on disc, on DVD, I don't know, early 2000s. I believe it coincided with the success of James Bond. It was something that they had with Brosnan in it that they could market, and I had it, and I sold it or traded it at some point. I don't know what happened to it, but I'm so glad that I have Taffin back in my collection because it's a cool little movie. And Alison Doody is in it, and she's the woman from she's the female lead from Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. And she's very good in the movie. She's sympathetic. She gets to do some stuff. She's not just window dressing, which is always good to have a deeper part than that. And it's a really good role for Pierce Brosnan as well, because he is not just one thing. He is not just Thumbreaker Taffin, or there's a lot of I don't know how much to say because I don't want to say too much, but there's a lot of pathos there. He's wrestling with some stuff. It's good, and he's just so young, and he's cool, and his hair is perfect in every single shot that he's in. I'm just like, I'm envious. In 1980, what is this? 1987, I think. 88. 1988. Pierce Brosnan. Your ridiculous good looks, and your perfect stubble, and your like every little hair, like, oh, he's got like the chunk of hairsprayed hair or the moosed hair. Like, it's just ridiculously good looking. It's a fun movie, and it's nice to see like Irish cinema, right? Because I believe this was actually, it was distributed by MGM, but I think it is actually an Irish film, like made and distributed in Ireland. United British Artists, Rafford Films. So yeah, good stuff. Texas Across the River. Now this is the first of two Dean Martin westerns that we're going to be talking about. Dean Martin is not by himself in this. Alain Delon, Joey Bishop, fellow Rat Packer Joey Bishop, and Joey Bishop plays a Native American in this movie. So keyboard warriors, get to your keyboards. And Rosemary Forsyth. It's essentially a comedy. I'll show you the back of the box here. It's essentially a comedy of like Dean Martin is the rascal with a heart of gold, and a worthy cause presents itself. And will he rise to the occasion and do the right thing and defend the worthy cause? It is very much a comedy. If you watch the trailer for it, they really lean into the comedy element, but it's fun. It feels, for Dean Martin at this point in time, he's feeling a little out of place in that role, right? And just it's just that Rat Pack, fun-loving, hey, like this is 1966. It's getting a little late for that. Now, meanwhile, on TV, the Dean Martin variety show, just the Dean Martin Show, perfect element for Dean Martin and his shtick and his famous friends. And people will knock on the door. Hey, well, who is it? Well, it's Bob Hope, ladies and gentlemen. Keep on sending in all those cards and letters, and I'll read them here on the air. The charm was still very much alive, but in this movie, he just, I don't know, maybe, you hear sometimes about how these Rat Pack guys, especially Sinatra, would just kind of coast through these movies, and they wouldn't do too many takes, and it was, I don't know. I love Dean Martin, and I really do like this movie, and I'm happy to have this movie in the collection, because it's something I'll read. Look, I love Westerns. I love the Rat Pack. We went to Vegas to try to trace, like, this kind of Rat Pack. Like, I love this stuff. But, so I recommend the movie, right? But I just want you to know what it is. It's a comedy from 1966 where Dean Martin is the leading man, but he's getting a little long in the tooth to be that kind of leading man. Well, 1967, 1 year later, Rough Night in Jericho. This is Dean Martin in another Western, but he's the villain. And that makes all the difference in the world. Because he is all the things that make him charming and like, well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about the problem. All that, you twist it just a little bit. It's like Andy Griffith in the Face in the Crowd. You just twist it a little bit. You go from light to dark, and all of a sudden it becomes threatening. So, he's this very, he's a good sharpshooter in this film, and he has essentially taken over this town. Like shades of Brando in Apocalypse Now. Like he set himself up as this ruler sort of a thing, and taken debunked the sheriff, taken the star off the sheriff. He is I am the law. It's Dean Martin in this movie. And so that whole attitude, you come to Dean Martin, and now instead of him being like, well, we can go figure it out, now it's like, well, it sounds like we got a problem. And if you got a problem with the situation, then maybe you got a problem with me. That twist just unlocks the whole thing for me. And I think it was his only villain role. I almost want to call him an anti-hero, but as the movie goes on, he becomes even less of somebody you can root for, and he just becomes a straight-up jerk. And he does horrible things. He beats the ever-loving crap out of Gene Simmons. Not the demon Gene Simmons, but the lovely actress Gene Simmons. Beats the tar out of her. George Peppard is our male lead in this movie. I love George Peppard, and we've gotten a passel. We're talking about a Western. We got us a passel full of George Peppard, thanks to Kino Lorber. At the Ground Star Conspiracy, we got PJ. I'm not even going to try to name them all. I think at least 4 in the last few months of George Peppard. And that's so great because George Peppard has been underrepresented in the Blu-ray era. So I'm really glad that Kino has stepped up to help us out with that. This movie, for my money, for what I like, which is, here's the thing. This is a fun, good time. When it's over, you're not going to be thinking about it anymore. It's like, hey, I watched Texas Across the River. What's for dinner? That's fine. That has its place. Rough Night in Jericho, you're going to be thinking about it after you finish the movie. And it's a very much more nuanced performance. Let's try to get the light just right on that shadow of the camera. It's a much more nuanced performance from Dean Martin. George Peppard, fantastic. What else is there to say about this? I recommend it. I really do. DC Cab. The Mr. T. Now, he's not the star of this movie, but if you got Mr. T in your cast, you mark it with Mr. T. You put him on the poster, you put him on the cover, you put him on the soundtrack, whatever you got, you put Mr. T in here. So this is a Joel Schumacher movie. It's directed by Joel Schumacher. I think this was right before St. Elmo's Fire. If my memory serves right, I could be wrong. But listen, okay, let's do the cast. So, well, let's send them back from Joel Schumacher, the outstanding director of St. Elmo's Fire, The Lost Boys, Flatliners, Falling Down, The Client, A Time to Kill, Veronica Guerin. What a resume. Also, Batman Forever, and Batman and Robin. This comedy, so it's a cab comedy that takes place in Washington D.C. starring, hold on to your butts, you guys, starring Adam Baldwin from Firefly and other things, Chuck, Mr. T, Gary Busey, Irina Cara from Fame, Bill Maher, Albert Hockenberry. Oh no, that's the characters. Never mind. Adam Baldwin plays Adam Hockenberry. There's more people in this too. Jill Schoelen. Yeah, it goes on, but you know what? It's such a bizarre relic of the 80s, but I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just like it's a holdover of the exploitation era, but it's also the hey, we got to save that thing from the 80s, right? It's so weird because it's like parts in the tradition of like Car Wash with Richard Pryor. It's this a day in the life of this particular career. And then it's also, we got to save this cab company. Not to be confused with, we got to save the ski lodge, or we got to whitewater raft down this river. It's kind of caught in time. And the weirdest thing, this movie's 1983. Okay. So it's 1 year before Ghostbusters. The movie ends with like this big parade you can kind of guess they probably do save the cab company, right? It ends with this big parade with like all our heroes from the movie are like riding down the street on the float, and like all the people from the town have turned out and they're clapping them, they're cheering, there's music playing. It is the end of Ghostbusters. And you would think, there's like the song playing, like Gary Busey's on top of the float, he's just like, hey, I got my skin suit on. But it's before Ghostbusters. So go figure. Was Ghostbusters influenced by the end of DC Cab? I don't know. I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying. It's a really interesting phenomenon. It's a fun movie. This is one you're going to pop on midnight on a Saturday night or Friday night or something like that and just forget about your problems and go check out the DC Cab Company. Final Kino title for this Review-Palooza, the Allnighter, a.k.a. the Susanna Hoffs movie, the debut Susanna Hoffs movie, the singer for the Bangles. It also has Joan Cusack in it. Let me see who else that we might know. Susanna Hoffs, Dee Dee Pfeiffer, Joan Cusack, James Anthony Shanta, John Terlesky, and Michael Aunt Keane. Produced and directed by Tamar Simon Hoffs. Okay, so this is a 1987 last night of college movie. It's not the last night of high school. But we could equate it. So let's go with like I Can't Hardly Wait, okay? And let's rewind it to 1987. Instead of high school, it's college. Very similar thing. Like all these relationships are kind of at a crossroads, and it essentially plays out in real time. Not necessarily like 24, like boop 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 boop. The following event takes place on the last night of college, 1987. Not necessarily like that, but like it's one night. The whole movie is one night. Like the day into the next day. So it's not great, but it's interesting. And again, I tell you guys, like, it doesn't even matter to me anymore if a movie's good or if it's bad. It's like, how does it do it? And there are things here. So Susanna Hoffs, I think it's her first role. She's great on screen in music videos, and she's super sexy as like the singer for the Bangles or the guitarist and stuff. There's something happening here where she seems like she's tentative. She seems like she's unsure of herself, and I don't know if this is a direction issue or you just don't know. But it's interesting. It's interesting to see that. It's also an interesting Joan Cusack performance, because this, of course, comes like after like 16 Candles or some of her mid 80s roles, but it's before some of the, the more like all these guys were kind of caught between not the moon in New York City, but their high school history and adult film roles. Not adult films. Their roles as adults in films, mature films. And so it's this moment in time. That's kind of what the movie is about. It's kind of about these people who are captured on the cusp of adulthood, and they're saying goodbye to a lot. It doesn't entirely work, but it does what it does in an interesting way. It's got a lot of really good music. For me, I think I said this in the Fresh Flavors when I first talked about this movie. I remember 1987. I loved it. For me, it was such a happy time. The music and the atmosphere and the colors and the fashion and just the mood, I really love it. And so for me, there's a lot of comfort here. And the movie, while not great, is there's something there. There's something that promotes rewatchability, and maybe for me it's nostalgia. For you, I don't know what it would be, but hey, it's the Susanna Hoffs movie, the first, the lead singer of the Bangles doing what she does. I also like beach movies. I'm a big fan of beach culture, Captain Tiki, all that stuff. I mean, you see the opening of the videos, right? And it's a good beach movie. Like half the movie takes place on or near the beach, and I love that stuff. So that's Kino. I'm gonna decide. Let's talk really quickly about this. Bree and I wanted to rewatch this movie, and like, yeah, let's do it. So this comes in this Review-Palooza not necessarily as a new purchase or a new release. That's not just the purpose of a Review-Palooza. I just want to tell you guys, I just want to give you my opinions about movies. I think The Truman Show is a powerful, powerful movie about the human spirit, about how we will not be dominated or repressed, about how we strive. Even if you can convince us that we are, as the movie does, if you can convince us that we have everything we need, the human heart wants more, it will find more. And I love that story. It's Jim Carrey at a time when no one knew if he could do this. He was coming off Ace Ventura 2, I believe he had done by that point. Cable Guy. And people were like, oh, The Mask for sure. And people were like, can he do a more serious role? Turns out, yes, he really can. So we watched this movie, Bree and I. This is our era. This is 98. So I'm in college when this movie comes out. This is my era of first becoming a cinephile, when I'm watching movies with a deeper eye and I'm connecting with messages and themes and things like that. And it still feels it's a really special movie to me. Ed Harris. It's written by the man who also wrote, I think he directed Gattaca, the film, which is getting a 4K. I love Gattaca. Gattaca is another movie with such high-reaching themes and ideas about what we are capable of and who we are, how we're wired. But I don't know, Truman Show. I love this movie. I think it is funny, but it's a lot more than that. It's a movie about, all the things I just said. So Ed Harris is great. Laura Linney is great. It's a really special movie. I picked up some Olive Films titles from Hamilton Book. They have had a lot of them, and I've bought most of them. And I'm dipping my toe. I mean, I've got a lot of Olive titles, but I'm slowly but surely venturing into the stuff that I've bought through Hamilton Book. So let's start with Hell's 5 Hours. This is a 1958, very cheap Poverty Row, kind of a thriller. It comes from Allied Artists Pictures, which was Monogram. You know, if we talk about Monogram westerns and like Monogram horror, Bela Lugosi and the Monogram, what is it, Monogram 9? Poverty Row, dirt cheap movies made on a shoestring budget. Allied Artists Pictures did a little bit more. They spent a little bit more, and it's the evolution of Monogram. And so for me, who's a film nut for, you know, this kind of stuff, I think it's great for what it is, for a low budget 50s movie that's meant to scare you. So the premise of the movie is that there's basically a nuclear facility. What do they call it on the back of the box? Rocket fuel manufacturing plant. Okay, they make the rocket fuel. I feel like the Ultimate Warrior. You make the rocket fuel to go into space to blast off with Hell's 5 Hours. The movie opens with like 5 minutes of public domain footage and a narrator going like, rockets, give us the power to go into space and to achieve our dreams, blah, blah, blah. Rockets, yada, yada, yada. Rockets. Two brothers, back to back. No, it's like, it shows all the, you know, they're using the public domain footage. They're filling out the running time with public domain footage and a narrator. And then it's like, did you ever wonder what would happen if it all went bad, it all went sideways? What if the rocket, like, what's the downside if the rocket blows up in your neighborhood? It could happen to you. And then, of course, this guy is gonna blow. He's you know what's crazy? What were we talking about? We're talking about, there were some parallels I was thinking about drawing. Taffin, going up against the big corporation that wants to take over their town. That felt very much like an Amazon connection to me now. And this movie feels very much like just all the headlines that we see about like jilted employees and stuff and what they'll do. Well, that's not new. 1950, what did I say, 58? 1958, you got a movie where a jilted employee goes back to the place where he works and wreaks chaos. And Vic Morrow from, you know, Combat, a lot of stuff. But he's our main guy. Stephen McNally is in this. Colleen Gray, she's lovely. Colleen Gray is a lovely actress. I don't know if you guys can really see her. Isn't this cool? This is super. Try to get the glare off. Super 50s. You can see the influence of film noir on this. I love this stuff. It's not a great movie, but it's fun, and it's not long. It's 81 minutes. This stuff makes me happy. So, again, you saw the intro to the video. You know what makes me happy. I love this stuff. I'll Take Sweden. This is a Bob Hope movie. It's got Bob Hope. Listen to this cast. Bob Hope, Tuesday Weld, Frankie Avalon, and Dina Merrill. Co-starring Jeremy Slate. So it's interesting. It's a beach movie. Well, it's kind of a beach movie. It's a teen movie. Starts out, Bob Hope, it's like older, grumpy Bob Hope. Like it's 1965. 1965. Bob Hope comes home and his daughter is having a party in their house, and of course it's a rock and roll party circa 1965. So everybody's doing this, you know, and Frankie Avalon's at the party, and he's just like, he's coming off of like 5 beach movies in a row. He's like singing a song to the people at the party. He's like, they love me, but I'm Frankie Avalon, making all the money. And Bob Hope's like, what is this guy doing here? What is this, your boyfriend? And she's like, I'm gonna marry him. And he's like, wait a minute. No, hold on. Yeah. So he's upset because his daughter wants to marry Frankie Avalon, and Frankie Avalon is, you know, like he represents rebel youth, right? So he just can't have it. So it's interesting to see Bob Hope as the square. They even say, Frankie Avalon is talking to Bob Hope. He's like, man, I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to bribe me so I stay away from your daughter. You are L7, man. And he's like, L7, what's that? He's like, well, you take a L, you take a 7, put them together, what do you get? And he's like, a square? He's like, that's right, Daddy. I wonder if that's an influence for Quentin Tarantino and Pulp Fiction. Quentin Tarantino would certainly have been influenced by something like that. L7, baby. It's what? So Bob Hope takes his daughter to Sweden, and it goes a little downhill there because they've separated Frankie Avalon from the Tuesday Weld and Bob Hope, and they're trying to rebuild a life. And Tuesday Weld finds a boyfriend in Sweden. And it becomes a little bit less interesting. But then, of course, it all comes back together. Frankie Avalon comes to get his girl. It's fun. It's slight. It's an interesting footnote in the beach movie phenomenon. If you're following the Frankie Avalon career path, then this is critical. And it's not a beach movie, but it is in the same conversation. I think if you're talking about your beach movies, this is a footnote, right? You go, oh, and then also I'll take Sweden. So I don't know. I like Bob Hope. I like Frankie Avalon. Tuesday Weld is great. Lot of. I just like these. There's a good shot. I just like these '60s beach movies, these bikini movies where everybody's just dancing to mid '60s pop. I love that. I love that stuff. So I get my fix there. Last olive title. We're almost done, you guys. The Atomic Kid. What a weird movie. It's fun, but it is a premise. It's a little premise, really stretched out. So this is, it's a Paramount film. It's so pale. It's like white on light blue. And I'm just like, what is it? It's a 1954 film. It's 86 minutes long. It's Mickey Rooney, Robert Strauss, and Elaine Davis. Mickey Rooney is, so they're like scavengers, or I think they were strip mining something. They're like, I don't even remember now because it's not even that important to the plot, but they're going around in the desert and like stripping copper or gold wire. I don't even remember, but they're doing something they shouldn't be doing out in the Nevada desert, out where the testing stuff is. Again, see our Las Vegas video. We went to the Atomic Testing Museum in Las Vegas. A deep connection between Las Vegas, between Nevada, and nuclear testing, blowing up atomic bombs. So they go into it's like, you guys, like Spielberg and George Lucas had to have seen this movie. They have to know about this movie. It's like what happens in Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Like they go into this house. There's like dummies set up. There's the table is set for dinner, the TV, the radio, like everything. Exactly the same. They do not get in the fridge. I was waiting for somebody to get in the fridge and I could be like, they stole it. They stole it from the Mickey Rooney movie. They didn't. And Mickey Rooney gets powers. He becomes like the nuclear man. He's the atomic kid. But he's in the hospital until like an hour into the movie. Like they keep an eye on him, and it's like the Hulk or something, right? It's like, we got to keep you contained behind this locked door so we can see what's going to happen. He's out for like 15 minutes, and then it culminates with this fight with some ne'er-do-wells, and the movie's over. It's like, well, that was fun. It's very forgettable. But it is a curiosity for those of us who like atomic age movies. It is an atomic age cinema production, right? So if you're into that sort of a thing, The Atomic Kid. And you guys, this was like $4.95. So risk small, lose small, right? I didn't lose it all. I'm happy to have it. Let's end with something. This is a new release, relatively new. This is Herb Alpert Is. This is a documentary about Herb Alpert, the horn player. He's more than that. He's a musician, piano player, producer, co-founder of A&M Records. He's the A in A&M. It's a really, really great documentary about not just Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass, but about A&M Records, about the artists that they signed, and about how he has continued to innovate for 60 years almost, I guess. And it's wonderful. I don't even know how else to sell it to you. I like that sort of thing. I like the music of the 50s and the 60s and the 70s. It's kind of home base for me. And I really like Herb Alpert. And the Tijuana Brass, of course, Whipped Cream and Other Delights, the most iconic album cover probably of all time. You see it in every thrift store because they must have sold 115 billion of them. And they talk about that. They talk about how they filmed, how they shot the cover for that. I mean, they get into all of it, and they go so much further. His relationships. Here's what I didn't know that I found out from the documentary is that he married. Well, it goes beyond that, but like Sergio Mendes in Brazil '66. The song Mas Que Nada, the song J.J. Abrams liked so much that he named a Star Wars character after it, Mas Que Nada. Do I sing it? Mas Que Nada. Doing my Brazil stuff, but hopefully that's off enough that no Google algorithm gets triggered and I don't hear from YouTube. But it is fair use. I am talking about the song. Sergio Mendes in Brazil '66, he brought them in. He was kind of like the shepherd of that sound. And he had a torrid love affair with, one of the vocalists from Sergio Mendes in Brazil '66, and then went on to marry her. And they're still together, and they're still making music together. And I don't know, man. It's a really great story. So this, I gotta say, this documentary is, it's a DVD. There's no Blu-ray, and it is burned on demand. And I don't know if it was my player or if it's the disc, but it did seem to have some trouble. It did not look perfect. It's the first time this has ever happened to me, so I'm guessing it's probably in the encode, not the IN code, but the ENCODE, the encode. It's the encode, baby. Dean Martin doing the encode. Them here in Jericho setting up. I'm gonna run this town. Me and the encode, if you know what I mean. It's perhaps the encode of the DVD, how it was manufactured on demand. It's got some problems, but it does play all the way through. However you can see it. I don't care if you buy the DVD. You do what makes you happy. But I do recommend, if you're into the kind of things that I'm talking about, music history, it's one of the better documentaries I've ever seen about music. So, guys, whoa, what a long one. I got to go have a lie down. My voice is shot. I don't know if you guys can hear how hoarse I am, but that's what I've been watching. I'm going to try to do these more often so that the stack is not as big. Maybe these videos won't be quite so long, but I know you like them long sometimes. No pun intended. You like them long. That's the encode. Guys, all right. We're going to get out of here. Thank you so much. Take care. And until next time, I will catch you later.